Hey guys, welcome back to Origami Twist. Today's video is a viewer request on how do you make squares to make origami paper. Specifically, the question was for 6" by 6" paper, but that's because I typically use 6" by 6" origami paper in my projects, so that's what I suggest. What I'm going to suggest here though is if you're using printer paper to make your origami paper, that you actually use a slightly different size. And the reasoning for that is that if you were to make a 5.5" square out of 8.5 by 11 paper, you'll actually end up with 2 squares instead of 1. Now, if you want to, this technique will also work to make 6" squares. So don't worry about that. It's modifiable. But let's get into it. So you want to pull out your ruler. And I am in the United States right now, which explains the bad lighting and not normal setup. So I'm going to be using 8.5 by 11 paper because that's what I have available to me. If you're using A4 paper, you want to measure into a different number, and I'll let you know as we go through, and I'll also put it in the description box below. So you need a ruler that has your measurements on it, so either inches or centimeters or millimeters. And in this case, because I'm using 8.5 by 11 paper, I'm going to measure in from the 0 point. Now that's a key point here. So you're not measuring in from the edge of the ruler, you're measuring in from where the measuring starts on the ruler. That's the 0 point. So make sure when you line that up with the edge of your paper, that the 0 point is lining up with the edge of your paper, not the edge of the ruler. That's very, very important. You'll know you did that right because the other end of the paper will say 11. And if you're using A4 paper, 297 millimeters is the length of an A4 paper. So again, line the 0 point up. And if it's A4 paper, it'll say 297 millimeters. Okay, so this is inches though, so we'll use... This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so we'll use inches. Now, I'm going to cut this one in half, so I'll be using 5.5 inches as my measurement. As I said, it is okay for you to use 6, you just won't end up with 2 squares. So, mark at the 5.5 inch point. Now, this is a little bit of geometry for you here. In order to make a nice straight line that goes down the center of the paper, you need another point to work with, so that you can create a line segment that's exactly in the right place. So I've made a mark at 5.5 inches. I'm now going to go down to the other end, line up my ruler at the 0 point, and make another mark at 5.5 inches. So now I have 2 marks here, and I'm going to take my ruler and connect the 2 points. Now, as you can see, I'm using a marker. That's so that you can see my lines. If I were doing this for myself, just to have square paper, I'd be using a pencil because it's easier to erase. So now that we've made our marks and connected the lines, we're going to turn the paper the other way so that your skinny end is going horizontal like that. And again, you're going to measure in 5.5 inches because that's the size of this square. However, if you wanted 6 inches, this is where you'd mark in 6 inches. Now, if you're using an A4 sheet of paper, you're actually going to go into 148 millimeters, both here and on the other side. And I'm going to go down to the other end, measure in 5.5 inches because that's the size of my square. Again, 6, 148, whatever you're using for your measurement is fine. You could do 4-inch squares, 2-inch squares, whatever you want this way. And then once again, I've got 2 points and I'm going to connect the dots to make a line segment. Now, a few of you may be out there going, oh, there's other ways to do this, and that is absolutely true. The reason I'm using this particular method is because it is incredibly versatile. All right, so once you've made these lines, now you're ready to cut. All you have to do is grab a pair of scissors and cut out your squares. Okay, squares are cut out. If you are using a pencil and you can still see some of the lines, feel free to erase them. Otherwise, there you go. 2 sheets of origami paper out of a sheet of printer paper. I hope that was helpful for you. I'll put all the measurements that you measure into down in the description box below so that you can make note for future reference. And happy folding. Hope you guys have a great day. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye, guys.